Hi everybody and welcome back to the Cupcake Jemma channel with me, Sally, and we are back in Sam's kitchen today. Massive thanks to him for letting us take over his kitchen at the moment. Now, I've been asking you guys what kind of recipes you want to see here on the channel, and something that quite a lot of you have been asking for is a chocolate Tres Leches cake, which I am so happy about because discovering the Tres Leches cake back in 2020 was my highlight of the year. I was super skeptical about them, and then when I made it and ate it, it was like a beautiful romance had begun, and I've been kind of obsessed with them ever since. And if you want to know how to make the kind of original vanilla version of the Tres Leches, I'll put a link to that below along with my favorite, which was the cereal milk Tres Leches. But today we are going to do the chocolate Tres Leches. But before we get started, what you need to do is to preheat your oven, because you want the whole of the inside of your oven to be nice and warm and at one temperature. But I haven't baked much in Sam's kitchen before, so I'm a little bit kind of not used to what his temperatures are, and you'll find that what your oven says on the outside can be radically different to what's inside. So what you can do is get yourself an oven thermometer just like this. They're really cheap and you can get them online, but they are such a great tool because, for example, I set Sam's oven to 160 this morning, but actually what the thermometer read was just over 150. So I've turned the dial up, which reads 170, but on the inside it is 160, which is what we want it to be. So I highly recommend getting yourself an oven thermometer. Anyway, now that that's all done, let's get on with mixing up our cake batter. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to separate our eggs. So I've got 3 eggs here, and we're going to use the shells to separate the yolks from the whites. So I'm going to put my egg yolks in this bowl over here, and we're going to put the whites into the bowl of my stand mixer. Now, the reason that we are separating our eggs is that we're going to use the whites to create air. We're going to whip them up, and that is going to create the volume and the air in our cake. We're not going to be kind of adding any butter to this sponge, which is what we would usually whip up to give us air. So let me just get my last egg done, and then we're going to leave the whites for a minute and we're going to focus on the yolks. So into our 3 egg yolks, we are going to add 90 grams of caster sugar or granulated sugar. Now I'm going to use my hand whisk here to whip these up for about 3 to 4 minutes, but what you want is for them to be really pale and thick. So as you can see, this is really pale now, much different to what we started with. So into this, we're now going to add some dry ingredients, starting with 70 grams of plain flour, which is also all-purpose flour, along with 15 grams of cocoa powder. Now, with cocoa powder, do try and find like a really good quality one. You might need to go online, but it's worth the kind of effort in searching because it's a much nicer flavor. Right, so next up we've got 1 teaspoon of baking powder to give an extra little boost to our kind of rise, and half a teaspoon of salt. And then I'm just going to use a spatula actually to just fold these through. It's going to be really stiff, but don't worry, that is what it's supposed to be like. It's quite hard work mixing this, so we're just going to loosen it up with 2 tablespoons of whole milk and a little splash of vanilla. So I'm going to go with about half a teaspoon. And don't forget, you can get this from CupcakeJemma.com. It is super high quality vanilla. It's exactly what we use in the Crumbs and Doilies bakery. So then just mix these through. You don't need to kind of beat, whip, anything like that. Just stir it through until it's fully combined. And once that is all smooth, we're going to leave this chocolatey batter to one side and get on with whipping up our egg whites. So I've got mine in the stand mixer here, but you can just use a regular hand whisk as well. And what I'm going to do first is just turn the mixer onto a low speed until some large bubbles start to form, which means that our egg whites have broken down, and then we'll be able to whip them up much easier. All right, we've finally got some bubbles going on in here. So now we're going to whack up the speed to a medium high, and we're going to keep it going until we get to a nice peak, and then I'll show you what to do from there. So what you want is for your whites to be able to hold a peak like this. Okay, and once you've got to that stage, we're going to keep the mixer going on that similar kind of medium to high speed, and we're going to gradually add 30 grams of caster sugar. And then just keep that whisking until we get to a stiff peak. So again, you can just test this by taking out your kind of whisk attachment, and voila! It looks like a little man with a fantastic coffee hairdo. So now it is time to combine our egg whites with our chocolatey batter. But obviously this is really stiff and this is really, really delicate. It's just full of all those little tiny, tiny air bubbles. So we need to do this really carefully. So what we're actually going to do first is we're going to loosen up this batter with a bit of the egg white. So I'm just going to bash this bit in here and then grab a small dollop of the egg white. And we're going to stir this through. We can be fairly vigorous at this stage. This is just to loosen up our chocolate batter. Now that we've loosened this, we'll be able to mix in the rest of our egg whites much more easily, which I'm going to do in 2 additions, and we're going to fold this through, which means very, very carefully and slowly. It can take a little while, but you need to do this carefully because we don't want to collapse our airy egg whites. So first things first, I'm going to use this metal spoon because it's got a nice sharp edge to it, so it would cut through the egg whites nice and easily. What we're going to do is we're going to cut through the middle and scoop around the outside. Once you're satisfied that you've kind of mixed in all your egg whites without going crazy and stirring, we can put it into our tin. So I'm going to be using this little tin here, which is about 7 by 9 inches. It's pretty small, but I don't have many people that I can give this to at the moment, so it's mainly all for me. But I will, Sam, you can have a small piece. But I will give you, down below, I'll give you a couple of options for a slightly larger size as well. So I've got a bit of butter here, and I'm actually just going to wipe butter along the bottom of my dish. I'm not going to put it up the sides because that can cause your cake to pull in on itself. And now we can add our cake batter. So make sure you get all of it into your tin. Don't waste any of this stuff. But also, because it's so fluffy and egg whitey, again, you don't want to beat too much out. So try and pour it in kind of evenly so we don't have to do too much spreading. I love it. It's so kind of fluffy. It looks kind of soft. Don't touch it though. So what I would say now is grab your offset palette knife. But this is a great example of what you can use if you don't have one of those, because I just assumed Sam, owning a cake business, would own a palette knife, but he doesn't. So I'm going to use this fish slice instead and just kind of level out. Hopefully this is going to work. Hey, level out your cake batter. Well, that's sort of worked, but if, like Sam, you don't have a palette knife, you can get palette knives along with all our brilliant cake decorating tools over on the Cupcake Jemma website. But this is ready, so I'm going to put this into the oven, which is obviously nice and warm because we've had it on for a while now. It's at 160, remember, and we're going to put it in for 20 minutes. And then when it's done, I'm going to turn the oven off, but leave the cake in the oven so that it cools down nice and slowly so that it doesn't just sink and collapse. So 10 minutes with the door shut, but the oven off, 10 minutes with the door open and the oven off, and I'll see you then. All right, gang, our cake has been cooling down for a total of 20 minutes in the oven with the oven off. So now it is leche time. This is what this cake is all about. We've got 3 different types of milk which we're going to pour over our sponge. We've got some whole milk, some condensed milk and some evaporated milk, which we're going to mix all together with a little bit of cocoa powder to give us like the ultimate chocolate milk. So we're going to start with 2 tablespoons of whole milk, so full fat milk if you can find it, and then I've got 2 tablespoons of cocoa powder, which I'm going to put into the whole milk first, and we're just going to mix these together until they're fully combined. Now that we've got ourselves this really thick chocolate paste, we can add our condensed milk, which I've got a full can here, which is around 400 grams, and the evaporated milk in this little can, which is about 170. I'm just going to pour them all in and mix it together. Now, if you want to have a little tiny cup of this to drink, I won't tell anybody. It's so yummy. Right, so before we pour this onto our cake, we're going to make some holes in it so that it soaks all the way through it. So I'm just going to use a fork for this, and we're going to stab it all over. Make sure you get right to the bottom of the cake. And once we've done that, it is time to pour. Now, if you haven't heard of Tres Leches before, you've never seen one of our other recipes, you're probably thinking like, am I really going to pour all of this milk on this cake? Like, yes, I am, and you have to trust me. This is going to blow your mind if you've not had it before. So we'll pour some on, we'll let it soak in, we'll add some more, just keep on going. So now what we need to do is chill this cake down. Now ideally you want to chill it overnight because it's going to give the kind of liquid and the cake a chance to really become one. And also if you've got some kind of milk left over but it looks like you've got quite a lot on your cake, then just save this and every now and again just check on your cake and you can always top it up. So yeah, like I said, ideally overnight, but a couple of hours minimum if you really can't wait. So luckily I have made one earlier, which I'll just grab out of the fridge. So this is the one that I made yesterday and it's been soaking all overnight and it looks so moist and delicious. I really can't wait to try it, but we need to top this off, which we're gonna do with some more milk. We're gonna whip up some double cream, but again, because this is our chocolate tres leches cake, we're gonna add some cocoa powder. So I'm starting off with 1 tablespoon of cocoa powder and 2 tablespoons of icing sugar, just to add a little bit of sweetness. And I'm gonna put them into my stand mixer bowl. And then I'm just gonna start by adding a tiny little bit of double cream, and we'll just mix those together to begin with. And once the cocoa and the icing sugar have mixed into the cream, you can slowly add the rest of our double cream, and then we're going to whip it up until it's a soft peak. And now we're just going to spread this over the top of our tres leches cake. I'm going to put it on little dollops and then spread it out. If you had a palette knife, you could make this all lovely and smooth if you wanted to. So I'm just going to top mine off with some sprinkles, but you could maybe drizzle some chocolate on top, whatever you want to do. And all that's left to do is take a slice. how moist this cake is. And I mean, I know how great this is gonna taste, so I'll try and look surprised. It's like drinking chocolate milk. It's so delicious. It's not like overpoweringly, like intensely chocolate. It's kind of, it's just light. It's like chocolate clouds. There we go, that's what it is. It is absolutely delicious. It's a really great thing for like a kid's birthday party or something, but also an adult's birthday party. Like this would be my chosen birthday cake, if anyone's watching that. So I hope you love making this, and do check out the other recipes we've done for Tres Leches because they are all absolutely delicious. Maybe there's some other fun things we could do with it. Like when we were making this, I thought, oh, maybe you could do like a Mexican hot chocolate version because it's a Mexican cake and like chili and chocolate. It's delicious. So maybe we'll have a little play with something like that. But this is great. Please enjoy it. Please love it. Please trust me on it because I know the whole milk thing is like a bit mad, but it's great. Anyway, I'm going to stop talking so I can eat all of this. We'll see you next week for another recipe. Maybe I'm hoping also to get some sticky toffee puddings up for you guys, like proper ones, like steamed puddings. And do also check out CupcakeJemma.com to get yourself a palette knife. Sam, I hope you're listening. Go and buy yourself a palette knife. We've got loads of great tools over there, as well as our bake at home kits. And we will see you next week. So have a good one, guys.